Hi guys, I'm here with Don and he is a lawyer. So I'm going to be interviewing him for Bodkin's Law Office.
Oh,
Hi, thank you for joining us.
thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So I know I called you a lawyer. Is that the right terminology for you? I know you do tons here, but I want to interview a real estate lawyer.
Okay. Generally, I am a lawyer and I have practiced in a number of areas. For your purposes and for the purposes of your clients, if you've got a real estate transaction, I suggest that you get a real estate lawyer.
Why?
Area of expertise and
1,000,000%.
familiarity with the subject matter. There are a lot of moving parts in a real estate transaction, and I think that if you don't understand the entire process and have a big picture understanding, yes, you may know theoretically that, okay, you've got to register the deal on the day of closing, but getting there may be a problem.
Absolutely.
If a problem should arise with respect to a term of the agreement of purchase and sale, term of the inspection, one of the conditions, a real estate lawyer is going to know how to handle and stick handle through those various issues. A general lawyer who maybe does crim or does corporate matters, they may have an understanding of the process, but fine-tuning and structuring a solution for that specific problem, which is not in the textbooks, that you garner over years of experience, that's when the client benefits from having a real estate lawyer. So to answer your question directly, I'm a lawyer. I do real estate, business, and estate law and litigation in those areas. But my primary area of practice is real estate.
How long have you been doing it?
About 30 years.
Good to know. So you've seen the industry, you've seen the ins and outs, the different times.
The changes in systems. In the old days, when I first started practicing, for instance, the deed used to be about this long. It was on legal size paper, and it had a stamp on it from the registry office. And it looked somewhat, when you bought a house, it looked like you had something. Now it's just a piece of 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, no stamp. It's just a computer printout. So that's one of the changes that I've observed over the years. It used to be that the closings used to be done at the land registry office.
Yeah.
So all the members of the real estate bar would see each other and discuss things, and there's actual FaceTime. Not FaceTime through the computer. Now everything is done at your desk on the computer.
Electronically. Yeah. It's kind of the way of the world, and each industry has seen a shift.
It's more efficient, but it creates its own unique problems which
for sure
you're aware of if you do this for some time.
Can you tell me what sort of services do you guys do here?
It depends on what the client's needs are.
Yeah.
So for a first-time home buyer, we walk them through the entire process. Most people, when they're buying, they're concerned with the purchase price, land transfer tax, the financial aspects. However, there are some backdoor issues which are not typically front of mind.
Yeah,
so
title
for instance,
searches.
The title searches, getting the utilities in your name, getting them set up. So for instance, if you're moving into the region of Peel as a first-time home buyer, you have to provide hydro with a deposit. Okay? So when you're buying your first home, every penny counts, and you've got everything allotted. Now, if you get a notice that in order to get your water bill set up and your hydro bill set up, you have to provide a $200 deposit. That can throw a monkey wrench into the works. So what we do is we go through the entire process in terms of the searches and all that, the stuff that we have to do, and the things that the client has to do, which may not be uppermost in their mind, such as the deposits, title insurance, the logistics of timing your mover.
Yes.
That's nobody ever talks about that, but one of the weird things about the real estate practice is the agreement of purchase and sale says that the transaction has to close by 6 o'clock. That's what it says in the APS, the agreement of purchase and sale.
Mm-hmm.
However, the land registry system shuts down at 5 o'clock. And the practice amongst the bar is that you try and get the closings done about 1, 2 early in the day so that the clients can move in. So we go through all that in terms of when do you arrange for the movers to pick up the stuff at your old place and give in terms of giving notice and exiting, and then when can you anticipate to move into the new property.
Right.
So those are things that we walk the client through. For an experienced client, somebody who's bought and sold several times, or an investor, then the services that we don't hold hands to the same extent.
Yep.
We may be discussing exit strategies for when they tend to sell the property to minimize the capital gains tax, or things that they can do to maximize their return on their investment. So it all depends on the client as to what services we provide, but essentially we provide a comprehensive approach to the purchase, sale, mortgaging of real property.
I do know that we've also discussed that you guys do stay open later to kind of accommodate your clients, rather than, I'll take a day off work or half a day off work to go see my lawyer.
Yeah, that comes from personal experience. When I bought my first house, I was in law school, and I went to Windsor, and my lawyer, who was my mentor, he signed me up at his place. I drove in from Windsor after classes, signed everything up at his house, and that was a real convenience. If I had to leave Windsor at, let's say, noon to drive to Toronto, to sign the documents during regular business hours, I would have missed classes. And you don't want to miss classes when you're in law school, because it's a hassle catching up. So I realized the importance of being able to accommodate clients.
Yeah.
So that's a personal story. And when I bought when I did buy the house, because I was out of town, being able to be seen after hours and on the weekends was a real boon for me. And so I decided to incorporate that practice in my practice. So we generally remain open late at night so that clients can come in after work.
Yep.
And sign up their documents, as opposed to having to take time off work.
So can you tell me if there's a tip, or in this busy market, something that you see constantly that you're kind of like, I wish people would know, or this is something that we keep running into? What is that thing?
The common perception is that if I'm buying and selling, we all do it on the same day. Okay, so I'm going to sell my house on close on Friday the 12th, and I'm going to close on my purchase on Friday the 12th.
Right.
And I just bam, bam, bam. That does occur, and when it does, it's a beautiful thing. However,
it's kind of rare. It gets hectic.
It does, and I call it the real estate chain reaction. You may have all your ducks lined up. You may have everything in place, but matters completely beyond your control can really put a dent in your day and a dent in your wallet. So, for instance, if you're scheduled to close your sale on Friday, you may get a call from the purchaser of your property that something has come up. The bank has delayed their financing, or there's an execution against their name. For whatever reason, their financing is delayed. As a result of their financing being delayed, Your
Yours.
closing, your
Right.
sale is delayed. Without the money from the sale, you can't complete the purchase.
Right.
So what do? You've packed up everything in the moving van because you're anticipating moving to the new property.
You've got a mover first
You've got
off.
a mover.
You packed everything. Yeah.
Everything's there. The kids are registered for school on Monday at the new school. But because of the problem, not with you, but with your buyer,
Right.
you can't close on Friday afternoon.
Absolutely.
So do you unpack the moving truck because you don't want to pay for the move? If your stuff is on the truck, you'll pay for it all weekend, or do you leave it on the truck and end up paying for the weekend? The beds and everything are there, packed up typically at the front of the truck. So where do you sleep for that weekend? Crash at friends and family's places? Yeah, that's a possibility. Or do you have to get a hotel? So typically, what I tell people is this: if everything goes well, you're golden.
Yep.
But if there's a complication, even if that complication is not
Your fault. Yeah.
you can be out of pocket. Typically, an extension for a weekend is going to cost you between $2,000 and $5,000.
Yep. Easily.
Because, at a minimum, because what happens is, because you're not able to close on your purchase, the people that you're buying from, they want to be compensated by you for the extension. So now you have to pay the per diem on their mortgage for a weekend or more. You have to cover their legal costs. You also have to pay your costs for extending your purchase. It's a chain reaction that ends up costing you a lot more than you would think. And the simple solution is called bridging.
Yeah.
You close your purchase before you close the sale. So you get the money from the bank. If you're selling a property, your bank will typically give you bridge financing without a problem, as long as you're using one of the chartered banks.
Yep.
If you're using a second-tier lender, they may not do that. But for maybe $250, and not even that, it's usually less than that in interest, additional interest, you get the money you need for your purchase on, let's say, on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
You close on the purchase, you can go in there, clean the place up, make sure everything is copacetic, move in, and then 2 days later, you close on your purchase.
Yes.
When you get your purchase, the money from your sale, you just pay off the bank, your existing mortgage, and a couple $100 interest. And you save yourself a whole lot of headache, angst, inconvenience, and money in the process. So if I could, my return clients, my existing clients, they know that they should bridge. That's one of the things that we educate them on. And they typically bridge when they're returning clients.
Absolutely.
If they come to me before they sign the agreement of purchase and sale, then
We're bridging.
We typically bridge.
So, question about bridging: is it costing you by the day?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So what happens is, the bank charges you interest
Yep.
on the mortgage advance. So the mortgage money that you're going to be getting for the new mortgage, that's set. But you typically have equity from the old property, which you're going to apply to that. So let's use some numbers. So the new property is $500,000. You've got $200,000 worth of equity from the property from your sale that you're going to be putting into the new property. That means you have a mortgage of $300,000. Okay. So the bank will say, okay, we know that you're good for that $200,000. We're going to lend you the $200,000 for 2 days. So we'll lend you that $200,000 for a couple of days.
Got it.
The interest is just going to be maybe less than $100 in total. Maybe, depending on the size of the mortgage, a couple of $100 in additional interest. But you avoid the headache,
Yep.
the angst, and the aggravation of something going wrong, and then you've got to deal with hotels and unpacking a moving van and getting the kids to school on Monday. It's a nightmare.
It's messy. It's like a
nightmare.
ripple effect.
Yeah. So that's my one recommendation. If you're buying and selling, bridge.
Perfect. So, enough about the industry. Who are you? What did you do before this 30 plus, but what did you do before law?
I sort of fell into real estate. I was an athlete in high school and college. When I was in law school, I was going to be a sports agent. And a sports agent in entertainment law. Eventually, I fell into real estate because I bought my first house prior to graduating law school. The firm that I articled with, they felt that I had this knack for real estate and yada, yada, yada. So I ended up doing that. Worked in the States for a couple of years. So after I got my Canadian degree, I got my American degree, and I was working in Atlanta. And I ruptured my Achilles tendon down there and discovered firsthand how good we have it here in terms of our healthcare and how lousy the U.S. healthcare system is. So I came back for surgery and rehab here. Ended up staying. The rehab took longer than anticipated, so I started helping out some friends who were working at practices, and things that was in '96 when the Olympics were in Atlanta, and the city just shut down for the Olympics. So a lot of the firms in Atlanta were dedicating their staff to the Olympic effort. So all the lawyers would spend half a day working on Olympic stuff, and so business really wasn't getting done. And hiring a new lawyer from Canada was not uppermost for a lot of firms. So I came back and I just decided, well, I met somebody, ended up getting married, and then all of a sudden I decided, you know what, I'm gonna plant my roots here. And ended up staying. So, blank years later, here I am. So that's what I did before. So I more or less fell into real estate, sort of abandoned the sports law part of the career, although I still dabble in it somewhat. And so that's what I did before.
So you've always done law?
Yeah, one form or another.
Was there an inkling in your childhood or the younger you that this is like law is for me? That's it. There's nothing else.
Well, I was brainwashed by my parents.
Aren't we all?
My parents and my godfather. My godfather, I was supposed to be born on his birthday, January 15th, Martin Luther King Day.
I'm the 12th.
Are you?
Yeah.
Nice people.
Capricorns.
Actually, I'm Aquarian.
Oh, well. You just
close
crossed
enough.
over. Yeah, like you'll have to be, but yes.
So I was supposed to be born on the 15th, and he was a lawyer. I'm originally from St. Kitts, and he went to law school in Toronto, and he told my parents that I was going to be born on his birthday, and I was going to go to law school in Toronto, U of T in particular, and that I would take over his firm in St. Kitts. Well, we immigrated to Canada in the mid-'60s, and I didn't take over his firm. So I was told almost from my cradle that I was going to be a lawyer. And I guess I sort of internalized that. And then the rebellious teens, and I said, I'm not going to be a lawyer. You go against what you've been told and what's been instilled in you. And it wasn't until in middle school when we had a substitute teacher came in, and we were doing some class exercise, and I came up with an answer, or I gave her an answer, and she said, you should be a lawyer. And it was the first time that I internalized it and took it seriously, because this is a woman who didn't know me from Jack. And if a total stranger is telling me I should do something, then maybe
Maybe
my
there's something
parents
there.
and my
Yeah.
godfather know something. So, and that's how it started. When some members of a church congregation, they had a law firm, and at 12 I worked as an office boy there.
At 12.
Yeah,
Wow.
answering phones and filing and following them to court now, all that sort of stuff. So I sort of fell into it. Well, no, I was pushed into it, and then once I got to the edge, I fell into it.
It was deliberate. It wasn't a fall. It was
Yeah.
take it and run.
Yeah.
Well, that's
That's all right.
amazing. Is there anything that we haven't commented on that perhaps we should get into? Or have we done a pretty comprehensive?
Well, there are a couple things that
There's probably tons,
we can
but
expound on, but maybe we can do that in the next part of the interview.
we will, yes, we are going to actually have a dual part interview. So we are doing this one more as an introductory. The next one will be, let's get down to business. Let's talk about pre-construction. Let's talk about the nitty gritty. But for today, we're keeping it light and on the surface. What more can we expand on?
Any practice is only as good as its people.
Yeah.
Okay. The fact of the matter is, there is a lot that goes on behind the scenes. And although things may appear to go smoothly, there are a lot of people paddling like ducks, feverishly under the water. I've been fortunate, I think, in that my staff is excellent.
Mm-hmm.
I really have good staff. We hired two young ladies last year, and they are as good as the existing staff that I have. And I think they make me look good. And I think, in addition to hiring a lawyer, I think you need to know about the office and get a sense of who the people behind the scenes are, because they're the ones that really do the work.
Wow. So is there a sense of how would you go about doing that? Getting to know the whole team.
An agent or somebody in the process of buying may call the office and inquire about our services, what we do. Typically, they want to know how much it's going to cost, and I think that is the worst question that you could ask, because if you're only concerned about the cost of the legal fees, you're penny wise and pound foolish, because as I explain to people, you can be given a flat fee of whatever to entice you in. But the fact of the matter is, there are expenses which occur, which you will be responsible for, even though you were given this very attractive fee. Now, the fact of the matter is, a fee might be quoted, but when lawyers doing the searches and the executions, if there's a judgment against somebody with a similar name, so for instance, your name is Darrell Jones. Jones is a very common last name,
Mm-hmm.
and Darrell is a fairly common first name as well. So if you do an execution search on Darrell Jones, there are going to be a lot of hits. Now, it means that there'll probably be judgments against somebody with that name. In order to close a transaction, your mortgagee or the bank is going to want to be certain that you are free and clear of any execution.
You are not that Darrell Jones.
So in order to determine that, we're going to have to do searches. We're going to have to write to the judgment creditors, the people that have judgments against Darrell Jones, and say, my client Darrell Jones is born such and such a date. His social insurance number is such and such. He lived at such and such an address at a particular period of time. Is your judgment debtor one and the same as my client? For that's between $150 and $250 for each letter that we have to send to the judgment creditor. Now, there's no way of knowing whether or not there's an execution. Well, most people don't know, particularly the first-time homebuyers. don't know if there's an execution against somebody with a similar name. Now, if you got to spend an additional, let's say, $750, $250 apart for a clearance letter from the judgment creditor. So GM Canada might have an execution against Darryl Jones. Darryl Jones, the dentist. The dentist may have a claim against Darryl Jones, the other Darryl Jones. Rev Canada may have an execution against the other Darryl Jones. We have to write to all those parties and get clearance letters. That's a total of maybe $750. So if somebody tells you it's going to be $500 all in, and
they don't actually know.
There's no way that you know until you do the searches. So, and you're budgeting on, okay, legal fees, $500 all in, and mortgage is this. So we're looking at about $1,000 with GST, maybe $1,200, and that's in your mindset. Okay, we'll put aside $1,200 for legal fees. When you're told, well, you know what? We had to get these clearance letters, and that's an additional $750. And your budget, is
tight.
tight. That is a real challenge. So we educate clients when they first come in that this is the range, and these are the sorts of things that may occur. So it's part of the education process at the front end.
And sometimes when you do those, I'll give you a flat fee of $500. You get what you pay for.
Well, I don't do that. I don't do that.
Right.
Our fees as of February 2020, we charge $650 for a purchase, $550 for a sale. That's the conveyance part. The mortgage, there's also the mortgage component, and that's $350 typically. If it's a private lender or a Schedule B lender, not one of the chartered banks, those mortgages tend to be a little bit more, between $450 and $500 because there's extra work to be done. And then, so there's the conveyance portion, the fee portion, the mortgage portion, disbursements, and that $750 could be disbursement.
Right.
You don't know what the disbursements are going to be. You have an idea, you have a ballpark figure, but you can't say definitively your disbursements are going to be X amount of dollars, therefore your flat fee is going to be X amount of dollars. And then, of course, there's the HST on top of that. So
there is a range.
We tell the clients that it'll likely be with this amount, in this range, but there could be situations which would result in additional fee or additional work. But we will tell you those in advance. We don't just do it and then come back and say, surprise.
This is what you owe me. Right. Well, that is excellent to know. I can't wait for our second interview.
Looking forward to it.
Same. Thank you so much for being here and kind of educating us a little bit more.
My pleasure.
As always, comment, like, and share. Thank you guys. Have a good day.